Hello, Sanbanani, Dumelang, Molweni, Mzansi Africa, and welcome to your #1 news show right here on SABC Month, SABC 1. Happy Breast Cancer Month, South Africa. Siyadamkela ke apha expressions. Dumloge ukhalo sakalubisi umadlongoti. Li alright kokukushisa?
Hey, no kokushisa kunjalo kholo, but I guess we just have to soldier on, man. Otherwise, right one?
I'm good.
All right, Nacho Mzansi Africa, and of course, I am your host, Oliya Mavumisa. Now, it's exactly 5 p.m. and we're coming to you live and direct from our Auckland Park studios in Johannesburg. Now, breast cancer amongst adolescents and young people is the focus this week. As you may know, breast cancer is one of the most common forms of cancer in South African women of all races aged 15 to 39 years. Now, although breast cancer in men is rare, the Breast Health Foundation recorded that in South Africa, 1 to 3% of all breast cancers occur in men particularly. And also according to another stats, men have a 1 in 943 lifetime risk of developing breast cancer, Kolo. Now, exactly 2 weeks back, the country learnt of the devastating news of the death of cancer activist Uzoleka Mandela after a prolonged battle with multiple types of cancers. And of course, our producer Utsehofatso Makgolejo compiled this report to really celebrate the life of Uzoleka Mandela.
A catastrophic death, a devastating farewell of a tireless cancer fighter, Uzoleka Mandela.
I was first diagnosed in 2012 at the age of 32. And how I discovered that something was wrong was I had given birth to my late son Zenawi, and because he only survived 2 days and without breastfeeding because he was in neonatal ICU, they gave me something to stop the production of milk. And so when I felt a lump in my left breast for the first time, I just assumed that it had something to do with possibly the medication that they gave me. So it wasn't until I felt like the second lump. And I think by that time, my left breast had felt completely different from my right breast, that I then went to go and get an MRI done. There was drama with that situation. And then eventually I was diagnosed by Dr. Carol Ben.
Okay, I'm learning to be okay with living despite an expected death.
Well, very disheartening to hear that. But of course, to help me unpack this discussion a little bit further, I have the honor and pleasure of being joined in studio namhlanje by Rahab Zulu, who is a breast cancer survivor, and also Olivia K. Lewis is from Cancer's Service Specialist. Ladies, thanks very much for joining us and welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I think let me just perhaps begin with you, when Rahab. Walk us through, I mean, you saw that inside we're talking about Uzoleka, and she really was an activist for breast cancer. But let's step into your personal life here for a second. Walk me through your journey of having been diagnosed with cancer.
So I was diagnosed in 2017, in October, on the 27th. So my diagnosis came when I didn't feel well. I felt, so my breast, the left breast, had mass. And unfortunately, I didn't actually realize that I started to have some lymph nodes that were swelling on my left armpit. And that's also because of lack of awareness and lack of discussion of cancer in South Africa, especially for young girls. So because I had a breast mass, I went to one of the radiologists around here in Johannesburg to have it looked at. And by the way of looking at it, it became a concern, because then she ordered me to do a mammogram. And again, I did it for the first time in my life. I was 35. And to cut the long story short, she ordered a biopsy because I was symptomatic. Though I didn't have a lump in my breast, I had mass. I had several lymph nodes that were swollen. And I didn't notice that I had lymph nodes that were swollen up until I had a sauna and I had a mammogram. And during that time then, I had a biopsy which then revealed that I had the HER2
so
breast cancer. That's a type of breast cancer that I have, which is releasing some proteins that are growing much faster and multiplying more, which then leads to a human being then having a breast cancer. So I was stage 3, a diagnosis in 2017.
Since 2017, and you've been living with it up
I've
until
been living with the disease.
All right, we'll unpack that a bit later on because I need to get to Olivia. Olivia, perhaps just walk us through some of the work, give us an overview of the work that you do to combat breast cancer or even cancer in South Africa.
Very, very important is awareness. As Arab just said, that she would have known more if there was the awareness. So we try to bring that awareness to young girls, starting off very young, because the age of girls having cancer is getting younger and younger. So we start at school level, and every woman and man, because men get breast cancer as well, need to take responsibility for their own bodies, and therefore they need to know what they're looking for. So we teach them how to do self-breast examinations. And that is something that must be done on a monthly basis. First time they examine their breast, they're going to feel a lot of lumps because breast tissue is lumpy. But as soon as they know their bodies and they know their breasts, they will soon feel there's a difference between normal breast tissue and a lump.
Just on that one, Olivia, how important is it that men also equally get to go for health checkups and also screening, just like how ladies also do it?
Very, very important, because men are inclined to not take as much trouble with their health and go for these screenings as women do. Women, are more conscientious about that, and that's why we try to bring that to young men, that you've got to take. And the thing is that you can get breast cancer and other cancers, which of course amongst young men is testicular cancer, which is found amongst young men if we're talking about the youth today.
All right. Rehab, perhaps some people think that it is hereditary. You probably get it from the lineage of your family. So did anyone perhaps in your family have breast cancer? And also just to touch on the fact that you had little knowledge of it. Do you even know what might have caused it?
So in response to the genetic testing, definitely yes, there is a linkages to genetics, but in my case, it wasn't that. So I actually did the genetics and they didn't test positive on any of those that were ordered. That being said, then that can only limit to, I suppose, a lifestyle and basically lack of knowledge, because cancer amounts to each day decisions that we make, often very small decisions that we make, but we find that they actually accumulate to the outcomes or where we find ourselves in future. So in my case, I was a very obese person. Not to say that obese people will have cancer, because not everyone that is obese will have cancer. We still have thin people that still get it, but in my case, I was very much bigger than what I'm supposed to be. And I think that created a risk factor, multiplied by the fact that I had children during that time. And obviously, when you have children, your body changes. And when you're also obese, your body doesn't get a break. And I think during that time, that's when the multiplication of cells was actually happening in the body without me actually
being aware
understanding
of it
and knowing what is happening in my body.
All right. Olivia, perhaps as the NGO that has been in our shows in South Africa for quite a long period of time, perhaps walk us through some of the challenges that breast cancer patients actually encounter.
Well, breast cancer patients have a lot of challenges. If we look at South Africa has a lot of rural areas. And once they're diagnosed with cancer and they have to go for treatment, and especially if it's radiation is usually every day for 6 weeks. And the hospital doesn't admit them, so they then got to find a way to get to the hospital every day for 6 weeks. And if they're coming from out of town, cancer does have care homes where they can stay. It's a home away from home. It's not a hospital. So they can stay there whilst they're undergoing treatment and then get the emotional support. And
I'm afraid, I'm afraid we have to take a quick commercial break, but we shall continue with this conversation because really it is a pertinent one that we all collectively needed to have. But for now, let's quickly go to an ad break. Stay with us.
As young people, I don't think we're very aware about the importance of screening and all those things, because I've never screened myself, and there's never been anyone in my household that had breast cancer for me to like see the importance of screening.
It's more of the fear of knowing, not like you will find out what you don't want to find out. But also I feel like students don't have like that access to such facilities, or they are not made aware of the facilities that they can use to check themselves and stuff.
I think the narrative is that men especially should be looking more after their prostate than the lumps in their chests. And I'm fortunate in that my mother's a nurse, so that's how I would know. But other than that, I don't think, and young people are young, they're supposed to be irresponsible, or at least that's what we think. And breast cancer and the like isn't something that's high on the priority list.
As young people, we think that it wouldn't affect us, but because of the foods that we eat, the products that we use, they chemically change our hormones in our bodies.
Okay, that's Young People on the Ground. Welcome to your still #1 youth show Expressions. We are putting a spotlight on breast cancer amongst young people during this breast cancer month. The question is, Ibuzayo, are young people aware of the breast cancer? And I mean, the importance of screening and testing for breast cancer. Join the conversation on our social media pages. Sikonago Facebook at Expressions_10. We have brought in studio an expert in the field, an oncologist or Dr. Adam Nosworthy, who is going to give us an insight and advice on how we can beat this cancer. Welcome to the show, Doctor.
Thanks very much for having me.
I mean, Breast Cancer Awareness Month is such a very important initiative. Listening from voices from the streets from young people, what is your reaction?
I think the points they make are very valid. South Africa is a very multicultural society. There's the haves, the have-nots. People aren't aware. Education has been poor, very, very poor, and I think that's one of the biggest problems with cancer all around. Certain NGOs like Cancer have done their best, but the resources available to them are very, very, shared amongst all the NGOs that are out there. What the youth are saying, absolutely. I mean, most youth and I remember when I was their age that the last thing on my mind was cancer. Yeah. The last thing on my mind was getting sick. I only realized when I hit 50 that life happens to you. So it's very important that they are aware. And that includes all kinds of, just be aware of changes to your body.
And some even spoke about the fears, and I have to agree with you on this one when you say that resources are not available, especially if you're going to look at rural areas. I mean, just in clinical terms, doctor, can you just break it down? What is breast cancer and how does it affect the body?
Well, essentially, cancer starts out as a mutation, some form of growth in the type of cells that the body has, whether that be in the breast, be it in the stomach, be it in the lung. So cancer starts in a specific organ. Breasts obviously are more important in women than men. But as you've mentioned a couple of times, breast cancer does happen to males as well, and often it gets ignored. What happens is that one cell loses control. There's no regulation of the growth of that cell, and it starts to misbehave, just grows uncontrolled. And 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 4, 4 becomes 8, 8 becomes 16 in a matter of seconds. That starts growing, that presents, the faster it grows, the more it presents as a specific mass. Fortunately, and it sounds horrible to say, but fortunately, ladies, men can feel a mass in their breast. A lot of cancers aren't detected early because they're occurring in the lung or they occur in the stomach where you don't necessarily have the ability to be able to feel them. So yeah, it grows in the breast. The next step is that it climbs into either the lymphatic system or the blood system. That's where the lymph nodes get involved, as was mentioned previously. And unfortunately, if it climbs into the bloodstream, very clever in which it transverses the wall of the blood vessels, and those cells then spread to other parts of the body.
Doctor, you speak about early detection. What would you say have been some greatest advancements in regards to breast cancer in the past years, considering that now we are in the fourth industrial revolution? I understand that technology, the 3D, must have taken over.
Look, it's we still, remember, we're in South Africa, so things are slow to hit our shores. There are many different kinds of techniques, technologies available around the world, but we still rely very much on the conventional mammogram. There are different kinds of mammograms, and those mammograms have advanced over the years to involve different kinds of technologies. They're less invasive. Still, most ladies would avoid a mammogram if they had to. It's not a very pleasant experience, or the fear going for it. And having your breast squashed between two radiology plates is I think, what puts most people off, unfortunately.
Doctor, thank you so much for your time. We are really grateful as Expressions to give us an insight, and also just young people to learn about the risk factors involved. Thank you so much, Doctor. Right in Bugeli Expressions, make sure that you do interact with us. Are you aware of testing and screenings? Let's take a quick ad break. We'll be right back after this.
Welcome back to Expressions. Thanks very much for staying with us as we continue to have a conversation about breast cancer. As you may very much be well aware that October is the month of breast cancer awareness. Well, I'm still with Rahab and Olivia. So, Olivia, I want to get to the aspect of resources. Perhaps are we understaffed, or are we under-resourced, or what the specialized personnel needed to curb breast cancer? Do we have adequate, do we have it in excess?
No, we definitely don't have it in excess, but if we look at the whole health system, everybody is trying their best and they're trying to things. But I think to get the word out there and to create the awareness so that each individual, each young person, each female, male takes responsibility, because breast cancer can be cured. And 9 out of 10 lumps are not cancerous, but you don't know. So if you know how to do your breast examination, you feel that lump, you need to go and have it checked out, because you don't know if that one's cancerous or not. So if everybody takes responsibility, and if they do find something, not to just stick their head in the sand, but to immediately get it seen to. The resources are there. They are limited, but we have resources.
At least to get us going by. For you, Rahab, your perspective from the healthcare system, do you think it was of use to you when you actually were first diagnosed with cancer?
I think there are two sets of world. There is a world that is well catered for, meaning the private sector, and there is a world that is not so well catered for, which is the public sector. So I went through the private sector, but I am aware of the both worlds. And I want to say my journey has taught me a lot of things, such as access to medication, access to facilities, and not only access to medication, but equitable access to medication. It's one thing to know that you've got cancer, but it's another thing to have access to the right medication and to understand what type of medication you need, if not to get healing, but to prolong your life. Because the truth is, science has revealed a lot of medication lately that can assist women and men to prolong their life, to live and be there for their children. So my experience has been a very fortunate one, because with the private medical scheme, there is an assumption that it's easy. Let me tell you, it's not easy. We still have to make those petitions as private patients. We still have to knock on those doors that often are not opened easily. But with courage, we do. So it hasn't been a very difficult, but I think I want to express that it's not easy for cancer patients to get treatment, and I think it's something that we need to talk about.
There's still a long way to go.
Yeah.
All right. Because of time, just in wrapping it up, Olivia, perhaps a word of advice or a word of encouragement to breast cancer patients, or even actually people and men. I just got a comment from my friend who also did mention the fact that I didn't know that men also could have breast cancer. So your word of encouragement to go for screening and testing.
Absolutely, men and women to go for screening. As the doctor said that, men find it a lot easier because they don't have big breasts, so they could actually notice the lump easy. But for women to know their breast, to do their breast screening, and there is help out there. There's Cancer's toll-free line. We have a counselling line. We have a youth group because we're focusing on the youth. And we have a lot. We've got a program called Adults and Young Adolescents, and we've got all the information, and everything is on WhatsApp because they're very, very social media tech smart.
Yeah, all right. Well, thanks very much, ladies, for joining us, and all the very best with your future endeavors, Rahab, and certainly you are a warrior and continue to be one. Thank you to you too as well, Olivia.
Thank you so much.
Well, Kolosa, one thing is certain, I will most certainly go touch my breasts after this show. Because I want to be aware, and really it's more about awareness. And as in Koboy expressions, we are precisely doing that to ensure that we bring such information and such people, even Rahab, to the show. But for now, that's it, Kolo.
That's it, and we'd love to encourage you, Mdomcheka and Ndobana, get involved, get screening, and make a donation. Taking us out is Nomina with The Rice.